Mustache man. Thank you. And then I'll come back to you, dear. Yeah.
Thank you, Adya, for reducing me to a mustache. Thank you.
No.
Thank you for your beautiful words. Something has seized me, and I figure out I better ask you now. I don't want to be coughing up my lungs 9 years from now, somewhere, if you don't answer these.
Not necessary.
But at the beginning of the retreat, you mentioned a stillness that moves forward or leans back. And somehow I keep trying to ask myself, what is that? And I can't figure it out. So would you please enlighten me to that?
Well, let's agree with one thing, that there's no way to figure it out. That's the groundwork. We just have to agree on that. And this is sort of a minor point. This thing of back or forward kind of stillness, leaning back or leaning forward. It's a minor thing that's useful at a very particular point, right? In general, it may or may not be that important, but you can get the feel of it. Remember, it's not something that one understands, right? It's almost like the difference if you were relaxing in the sense of almost falling back. It's like when you just kind of go, ah. And you can feel your energy just kind of falling back just a little bit. It's very subtle.
You mentioned that if you sort of do that, you fall back, things kind of dry out. You don't...
They can. If you fall back to a certain point and then stop. So in other words, if falling back is, if you get in there, you can get to the sort of the witness state, which is highly encouraged in spiritual circles, and it's fine. It's a useful technique, we could say, right? So it's the witness state. Now, if you were to fall back and just fall back, you fall right out of the witness, then you fall right into the hole. So anything taken to the extreme works. But the point I was making, if someone is sort of stuck there in the witness state, and it gets sort of dry, then there's, just like you can kind of go, ah, you can also almost energetically just lean into the moment. It's almost, the feeling, the image is almost as if you were leaning slightly into an oncoming wind, just a breeze, and instead of this, you leaned into it. And there's a vividness then.
So like being, even though you are in the unborn and you're abiding there, you still want to be engaged.
Yes.
Into the world.
Sure. Yes. 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 And this is just sort of a, you can actually feel how it feels different, but I'm using it also sort of as a metaphor. Right, because the whole idea isn't necessarily to become, look, disengagement is a step, right? It's emphasized in spiritual circles because people aren't so much engaged as they are attached, right? They're not really leaning into life, they're grabbing hold with everything they have, right? And pushing away with everything they have. So in order to, as an antidote, right? Like if you go to a doctor and you say, I have this or whatever, I have the flu or whatever, and they give you an antibiotic, and it helps cure you, let's say. All spiritual teachings, they're like medicines for a particular type of dis-ease. And so the teachings about be the witness, right? That's basically it, be the witness. Those teachings are meant to break this hole. It's like a medicine that's breaking this disease of grasping and pushing and grasping and pushing and grasping and pushing. But like if you gave someone antibiotics, if once they got well, they just thought, well, wellness is antibiotics. I'll stop eating and just take antibiotics. It wouldn't be good for them, right? It'd probably end up killing them. So you can take this thing of be the witness and take it as an end in itself. And then you've missed the point. The real point is to get the ego to stop grasping, to stop clinging and pushing. And when you're witnessing, you're kind of outside of that. But once it's outside of that, if there's no grasping and no pushing, then there can also be a total intimacy in the world but not of it. That's what it means, right? So this eventually it ends up as a witness and totally intimate. Two like polar opposites simultaneously existing, being so intimate that everything's one, which is a very intimate engagement, and at the same time simultaneously totally even beyond one. So the spiritual techniques usually kind of help you visit those locations. Right? But if we grab onto any of them, they'll end up fixating us in one of the locations. We don't get the whole thing. You get the feel?
I get the feeling, just lean slightly forward into the world.
If that's all you got, that's good enough.
Thank you.
That's the most important thing. Yeah.